And there's home footage of me singing as a child and talking about moving to LA and being an actress. And it was something that I had literally been telling them since I could speak, like since I was 3 years old. So they had a lot of time to prepare for it. And they were super, super inspired or inspiring and supporting, which was really great.
My name's Adam, and this podcast is about you and your music journey. I know obviously you're a successful actor, but I would love to talk to you about your music and your music career.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're awesome.
It's been exciting.
Yeah. Cool. So I would start off where you're born and raised. Are you from Vancouver? Is that where I read?
Yes, Vancouver, BC.
Okay.
Born and raised.
What was it like growing up in Vancouver? Tell me about that a little bit.
Oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful city. I don't know if you've ever been.
I haven't, but I grew up in San Diego, and so we're still on the West Coast. That's
about all I know. Same time zone,
That's all I know.
Very
I've interviewed a lot of
different.
people from Canada, yeah, and more in the Toronto area, but from what I gather, it's quite different than middle. Yeah, the middle of Canada.
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, same time zone. We love that. Very different weather.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like fall just hit this week and it's definitely cold up here, but it's so beautiful and it's so green and I love being in nature. So to be surrounded by mountains and water and be 30 minutes away from any mountain if you want to see snow it's a dream. So yeah, I was born and raised here. And then I moved to Los Angeles when I was 16 years old. The day I got my driver's license.
Really?
Yeah.
So the day you got your license, you moved to LA. Did you have a license in a Canadian driver's license? Like, how does that work coming across?
Yeah. So up here, it's funny. We have these letters that you put on the car. So when you have a learner's license, you have an L that's just on the back of the car. And then when you're a new driver, you get an N. And that means you can actually drive on your own and not have a parent in the car.
Okay.
And yeah, I had homeschooled my senior year. So I had already graduated in 3 months, which was crazy.
Wow.
And then I had my driving test. And so that was like the one thing I needed to pass in order to get down there. And I drove down with my dad that night, which was probably terrifying for him.
That's cool.
Being a new driver.
Yeah. How long do you have to have the N on your car? Like a year or 6 months?
For a year. Yeah. Like I think it's a year. This is a long time ago. So yeah, okay. I think it was, I don't remember all the rules, but I believe it was a year. And then, yeah, I drove down that night and it was a 22-hour drive, which was unbelievable. Oh. And yeah, one of the first jobs that I booked in Los Angeles actually shot in Vancouver. So I got to come back up to film.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The nature of the business, especially back then, I felt like a lot of the opportunity, like they filmed a lot in Vancouver, but a lot of the opportunity was down in LA and you had to meet people in the room, where now everything's over Zoom. And so you can have meetings and auditions and be literally in any country ever. So it's been great.
That's wild. So you're in Vancouver now? I'm
in Vancouver now. Yeah. Okay. And I spent my time, I still go back to LA quite a bit. And I spent my whole adult life there up until the pandemic. And then I was here with my family and it was the day that I was meant to fly back that the world shut down.
Oh, wow.
I had a carry-on with me. So I had one pair of pants and some toiletries and that was it. But I was just so thankful to be here and to be with my family. And I had looked at my year even before officially moving back. And I'd spent 8 months out of the year up here anyway with filming and work and visiting family, that I was like, this is where I'm my happiest. So I'd love to also get a place up here and then go back and forth. So that's what I do.
That's cool. That is cool. And then the restrictions were really hard, right? To get in and out. So you're probably really stuck there.
Oh, it was intense. It was intense, but it was actually a blessing work-wise because I happened to be in Canada and the film industry was one of the first to get started here. And so because I was in Canada, I actually got to keep working through the pandemic, which was awesome. A little nerve-wracking just because of like during the height of it all. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm on set with no mask. So it's a little, you're like, oh my gosh. But all the protocols were heavy duty, but they were all in place to make us all feel safe. So it was good.
That is cool. So at 16, you moved to LA, but prior to that, were you focused more on music and singing, or was it acting? Like what originally took you down there? But prior to that, I got two questions here. I'm going to rewind.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm confusing everybody, even myself.
Okay.
You come from a musical household at all?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So my mom's a piano teacher
Wow. Okay.
and had a studio in the basement. So I grew up doing homework to piano music.
That's
And
cool.
and I took classical piano as well. And that's actually where I wrote my first song, because at the time I hated practicing piano. And so my mom, to motivate me as a 13-year-old, I did not want to practice every single day of summer because my piano exam was in August. And so she told me that if I got above 85% on my piano exam, I could invite my crush to my birthday.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if
There you
this
go.
guy knows about this, but I didn't even have a photo of him that I had taken from like myself. I actually borrowed a photo from a friend of a friend, and then I sticky tacked it to the piano, and I would go down there and practice for hours. But I'd actually start writing melodies and lyrics over all the classical music. And I was just daydreaming of this boy-girl birthday party I was going to have. And it all worked out. I mean, we only dated for 4 days, but it was great because
I was going to say, did he ended up coming? That's good.
he ended up coming.
Sparks
He
flew
was
a
my
bit.
first kiss.
Wow.
Got 88% on the piano exam.
A lot happened in those 4 days after. That's
Oh,
cool.
you know, it was a magical 4 days. But yeah, so I grew up in a really musical household, and then my dad's family are all singers and piano players as well, and musicians.
Mhm.
But I guess I don't know. I guess I started singing when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and then got into acting professionally when I was 14. And at the time, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus strictly on acting, and then I'll put music kind of over here, even though I love it so much. And the summer before I moved down to LA, I'd had this little breakup, and I, with my friend, went into the garage and wrote this I Hate Men EP that, again, the I Hate Men phase only lasted 2 weeks. But anyway, I wrote this EP and then did nothing with it. I literally had it on a CD burner and left it in my laptop case. And what was so crazy is after I moved to LA, one of my first trips back to Vancouver, I was sitting next to this guy on a plane, and we were just talking about music. I had no idea what he did. And I gave him my demo CD that had Sharpie on it. And I was like, here's my music. Don't know if you're interested, but here you go. And he ended up being a producer on this CBS show called Moonlight. And they ended up buying one of my songs from that EP.
No way.
And that was actually my first actual paid job when I moved to LA. And that's what helped me pay my rent. And so music was involved in all of it. And then when 90210 came about, I was hired as a singer. And so initially there wasn't much to my character other than I was the singer of Spring Awakening, which
I remember I read about that. That's okay. Yeah, because you started off singing on the show. That was like
singing on the show. And that was a dream, because I got to do both of my passions. And so it's just, that was such a great launching pad. And then they kept the music throughout all the seasons. And they also explored so many different genres, which was really fun from a songwriter perspective, because my character was singing pop music, and then she was a country star, then she was singing jazz, and it was just so fun to play around with all of it. And to, whenever like my character would release a song, I would release my own songs at the same time. And that was always kind of a trend. Like I had dreamt about making an album, but I was acting and I was doing it for my character, and then kind of releasing songs that I thought people would want to hear along with the same storyline. And then with all these Hallmark movies and GAC films, I've done the same, where like I'll write music into the films and release them here and there, and singles here and there. But I'd never done a full-length album, and that was definitely on my bucket list. And so the same trip, when I was home, when the border shut down and I was staying at my parents' house, I was really reflecting, because at the time, all of my acting jobs had shut down. All of my writing jobs were canceled for the unforeseeable future. I was like, what am I going to do with this time? And so I reached out to some producers that I had worked with over Zoom. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to write? I'm feeling super inspired. And that's what birthed Elemental, my album.
Wow. Okay. So this was kind of, you said it was like a bucket list project that you wanted. So everything before that, like just because I'm curious. So like TBD or TBT, and then the one that even before that one, with Nothing Like This, the Nothing Like This EP, those were written like, was the Nothing Like This EP the one that was burned, or is this
The
after the
Throwback
fact?
Thursday one was actually the Burn album.
Oh,
A lot
that
of
was the
people
burn
don't,
one.
yeah, a lot of people don't know about that. And the song Goodbye is the song that I sold. But when they listen to it, they actually don't know that that's the EP that I did when I was 16. So hence the Throwback Thursday. So I'm actually
Oh,
16 on that recording, which is crazy.
that is crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the original first one that you ever did. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the first one I ever did with my best friend. And then the Nothing Like This album, or the EP that I did was, which was 4 songs,
Mhm.
coincided with Adriana releasing music on 90210. And then
Got
since
you.
then I've just done these one-offs and until now when
Until this album.
until this album where now I can't stop and I'm working on album number 2. So
Are you? That's cool. Okay, well, I'll get into that. Curious. So, did you move, like, the move from Canada down to LA, from Vancouver to LA at 16 years old? Was that like telling your parents, like, did you have a gig down there, like, to be like, okay, I'm 16, I'm moving to LA, and to have your dad get in the car and go with you? I mean, that's pretty impressive, right? I mean, not a lot of parents would do that, and not a lot of people would take that leap.
I had done my first lead role on the
Okay.
show. It was for Showtime and it was called Masters of Horror. And each episode was with a famous horror director.
Hmm.
So I got to work with Toby Hooper, who did the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was
Wow,
really cool.
that is
But
cool.
it was my first taste of meeting producers from LA, actors from LA, and just having even the responsibility of carrying a film. And it was a dream summer. And at the end of the summer, the producers of the film, they were also a huge management company down in Los Angeles. And they took me out for tea. And I remember it so vividly. And they sat me down and they're like, hey, so when you're done high school, we'd love to represent you. And I had gone to Staples that day to do back to school shopping and get school supplies. And I was like, I don't know how I can just go and sit in the classroom for an entire year and stare out a window after this experience and be okay with that. And then I also was like, what if they forget about me in a year? Like
Right.
I knew what I wanted to do. So I went home and I did a ton of research and I found this online school that had online principals, online teachers. They even gifted you a Mac laptop. That was part of my sales pitch to my parents. I was like,
Wow.
yeah, I was like, this is really cool. I can work all these different hours. So even if I was to film, I could sign in at 11 p.m. and do school. So I
Hmm.
had this whole pitch for my parents prepared. And then I start talking. And out of nowhere, my mom's like, okay. My dad's name is Dan. She's like, Dan, go email her principal. And he's like, okay.
Whoa.
And it was so chill. And I mean, my parents have always been super supportive and always have believed in me.
Hmm.
But my dad holds the teenage record for running across Canada.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And I think
Oh,
that's part of
he
it.
owns for running across Canada?
Oh, yeah, no, he's
Oh, no, no,
crazy.
no. Sorry. I thought you meant like he's awesome because he took the trip down to LA
No,
with
no,
you.
no.
No, no,
So
no. But he holds,
he holds the record.
wow. Okay, hold on.
When he
Go
was
ahead.
19, he ran across Canada. And he did it in 81 days. And he knew what it was like to have a dream. And I think no matter what my dream was, no matter how outrageous it was, he was going to support it no matter what, because he also knew what it was like to have an outrageous dream.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that's just
Whoa.
the parents I have. Yeah, they're very like, they just supported me and believed in me. And I was also a really good kid and I'm very close with them. So they would take turns coming down. And then one of my managers that was the producer on that project is still my manager to this day. And
Incredible.
yeah, and he was like the best human to know down there. And I really lucked out because I trust him and he's like my older brother and was just he's just always been so great. And so, yeah, I was in good hands. And then, like I said, most of my jobs actually shot in Vancouver. And
So
then
you're
I
home a lot, back home a
home a
lot.
lot and then officially moved to LA right before my 18th birthday and then booked 90210 when was I 19? I guess I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
19.
That's crazy. I'm curious
Yeah.
with your dad real quick, just because to run across the entire country of Canada, like, how do you even plan that out when it comes to the weather there? Doesn't it get like negative, like 100 degrees there?
Yeah, yeah, it does. He even to this
Wow.
day,
Did
now
he
he's really
start? He must have started east and came west, or no?
yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, no, no. He
No.
did
So he's
no.
running like
He
directly
did
into the
yeah,
cold
yeah.
weather.
Yeah, he
Wow.
did. Yeah, Victoria to Newfoundland.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
That's
yeah,
wild.
it was wild. And he like the pictures from the whole experience, like he was on the cover of Runner's World and
I'm
doing all
surprised
of
he's
these
not on the cover of
things.
Sports Illustrated. That's
Yeah, like
insane.
it was insane. He grew a beard while he was running, and yeah, it was wild. But he's always just been such a driven, inspiring person, and
Wow.
he's like my very own Tony Robbins.
Sure, that's
So
cool.
no,
Wow.
which is really incredible. And like they never held me back. And I'm sure, I mean, I know that they had obviously their own fears of the whole experience of letting their baby go to LA, but
Yeah.
they also knew that I had dreamt about this my entire life. And there's home footage of me singing as a child and talking about moving to LA and being an actress. And it was something that I had literally been telling them since I could speak, like since I was 3 years old. So they had a lot of time to prepare for it. And they were super, super inspired or inspiring and supporting, which was really great.
That is so cool. Yeah, a lot of people don't have that support when it comes to the arts or anything that's not go get a 9 to 5, like nothing that's kind of more like, like has some stability of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you are back in, so you start writing this EP during, or not the album, you start writing the album during COVID or like the lockdown because you're there.
Because I'm
You're
there.
you're stuck in Canada. You're stuck, or not stuck, but you were
But
living in
no, I kind of was. I was pretty stuck.
Okay.
But it turned out to be the best thing ever. But
Okay.
um, yeah, so I started working with my friend Aaron Edwards, who I had worked with years before on a couple songs that we had never released. And I just remember really loving collaborating with him. And
Mhm.
I think he's so unbelievably talented. And so he introduced me to another guy named Corey Wallace, and the three of us just came up with this whole thing and would collaborate with different writers that were in London or Copenhagen. So we'd have these wild Zoom jam sessions and brainstorm sessions. And I had then ended up flying down to LA and driving most of my stuff up here in a U-Haul at the height of the pandemic, May 2020, when everything was shut down, which was crazy. And when I should have been packing up my place in LA, I was recording all of this music instead. So I just was, yeah, and we recorded most of the album in Corey's bedroom at his parents' house. And then we also recorded a lot of it in my closet. So it's just so crazy when you think of everything that had to happen and come together to create it. And after we had all the songs, I then also, like I had recently started screenwriting, which was a huge dream of mine. And I
Mhm.
really wanted to do something to showcase myself as a director. And I had had a couple producers want to see some work where there was an opportunity pending. And they're like, okay, show us something you've done. And I didn't have anything. So
Mhm.
I was really thinking, and I just had the music playing in the background. And I was like, it would be very cool, instead of just writing a short film and directing it, it would be very cool to incorporate obviously something that I'm so unbelievably passionate about and that's so personal to me, but then also have it be a short film. So then I really got into the idea of directing a visual album. And
Mhm.
I thought it would be really fun to tie it in with the elements. So it's 7 music videos in 30 minutes long, and each video is a different element. And within the element, I'm escaping a natural disaster. But you don't know if it's actually reality or if it's in my head, but you know subconsciously my character's in the wrong place and needs to pull herself out of that place and
Wow.
find herself again.
Okay, so that whole, because I was going to ask you about this. So the whole album was done and written and recorded, and it had nothing to do directly with the concept that you had written for after the fact for the elements in the
Yeah.
videos.
No, but I was definitely very inspired by being in Vancouver and
Uh-huh.
being surrounded by nature. And my parents had like they lived on the island at the time, and they were like right on the ocean and trees. So I definitely felt like that was a lot of the inspiration even behind the production and the
Mhm.
sounds. But yeah, I developed it actually after most of the songs were done. I think at least 4 or 5 were recorded, and then I kept adding more in. But
Okay.
I was just thinking about it and how the elements really can tie in with our emotions, and how
Mhm.
there's a dark and light side to both of them. And I was just thinking of, I think one day I was just out there looking at the ocean and seeing how calm and peaceful it is, but then it can also be turbulent and scary and dark. And so I just thought it'd be fun to do a take of like an Alice in Wonderland, but in the setting with elements, and then just tell this beautiful story that goes with the songs and the lyrics.
And you can kind of showcase everything, like a lot of your obviously your passions there, your acting, your songwriting, your singing, and then you directed the whole thing as well. Like you've got all these things happening that you're kind of pulling both your worlds together for the one project.
This is my heart and soul. And it was also just everyone involved knew that this was my baby and how much this meant to me. So it was a labor of love all around. And I think that's what was so cool was when you watch it and you would never know that this was a self-financed project. That
I didn't realize that either. Wow. Yeah.
Self-financed.
Wow.
Shot over the course of 7 videos in 5 days.
Wow.
And so people would never know that. And then all the people that came together and lending me vehicles, like, here, have the Porsche, here, have the house, here, have my studio. And it was just unbelievable. And it was just me and some of my closest friends creating art. And I think that was also what was so meaningful. Like these people that love me so much were like all coming together to try and make my vision a reality. And it was just, that's what makes me most emotional watching it. It was just such a collaborative thing. Mm-hmm. And so after those 5 days, I was like, you know what, I really wanted to make sure that the coloring was right, the edit was right. And so I took the next year just to kind of time it perfectly before I released it. But I'm really proud of it.
That is amazing. I mean, the album's awesome. I love the videos. Like, I didn't realize that was all. I figured that had to be something that was done after, like with a big production company. You know what I mean? Like, had to be doing something like to have it as like DIY is, as you are explaining, is crazy.
So DIY. Like, even we didn't have a dolly. We used a skateboard, and we were pushing my friends through the park. And then, like, even the guy, our guy who did the effects, was just unbelievable. And it was just everyone coming together. It was just so cool. And my friend Sebastian, who plays the lead guy throughout most of it.
That's my son's name. I love that name.
That's an awesome name.
He probably spells it with an E-N though, if he's from Canada.
Oh, I'd have to look that. Yeah, I think, yeah, probably. Yeah. The French Canadian way.
Yeah. Sidebar.
But yeah, so he was he was so talented. And I had worked with him. I did a couple scenes with him on a Lifetime movie years ago. And I just remember him telling me about his gymnastics background. And I always thought he was so talented. So when I was writing this whole thing, I wanted it to be left open to interpretation. I didn't want it to just be about a breakup. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to be about a pattern, and whatever that is, if you have the strength to pull yourself out of that dark place, you're a hero. And I loved that idea of him representing multiple relationships or patterns or anything in your life, like having it be one guy throughout all of it. I'd never seen that done before. Mm-hmm. And so I had reached out to him and I had pitched the idea of us choreographing a dance, and some of his gymnastic skills are like, that's one of my favorite videos. Cause it was just so insane. And I was blown away. And I love at the beginning of the day, he's like, oh no, I'm not a dancer. I'm like, you're a dancer. Are you joking? I'm like, you just did a triple backflip over my head. I don't even know what happened, but yeah, I'm really, really proud of it. And then even I got my friend who DP'd it, he's a photographer, and he had gone to film school back in the day, but hasn't done anything with it since, really. And so we sat down for coffee, and I was explaining my idea of wanting to create a house fire and an earthquake and a drowning and all the things, mm-hmm. all the disasters.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, okay, cool. Who's going to shoot it? And I was like, I want you to shoot it. And he's like, yeah, no, like, I think you should get someone else. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, you're doing this. And he's like, a house fire? And I'm like, we can do it. Like, it's going to be fun. And so even with the earthquake scene, that was comedy because I had this idea of performing as the elements as well. So my friends were off camera throwing flour at me.
Oh, wow.
Create that effect. And yeah, so it was really fun, and he killed it and did a great job as well. Everyone did a great job.
That is cool. When you started, just to go back to the album, because I'm curious how it all kind of not how it ties in because you just explained that, but like, okay, so when you start writing the album, was there a moment that you said you called your friends and were like, hey, I'm feeling inspired, I want to write something. Like, did you have stuff written out? Like, was there a moment that you're like, oh, I needed to start writing music, or was it just kind of a natural thing and you're like, oh, I've got these ideas, so I'm going to call some people that I know?
It was a bit of both. I think I had been going through a breakup at the time and
Okay.
had lots of stuff to get out. And music has always been very cathartic for me and such a huge form of therapy. And so that was part of it. But I also was just really passionate about this story about, yeah, like reconnecting with your inner child and really healing. And it was such a healing time as well. And so I just thought it was really cool to just have the music reflect that. And what I like is it's a blending of genres where it starts in one place and ends up somewhere completely different. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the story arc as well. And I just have the most amazing team of people in LA that I work with, like Aaron and Corey. We are literally a trio that just get on. We do Discord sessions quite a bit where we're just always
Okay.
brainstorming and yeah, it was. I tell you the story. They're very emotional. Like even the songs are more like cinematic pop, I guess. I don't even know how you would describe the genre of some of the stuff, but it's very emotional, and I think that comes through with the visuals of. It starts out with this fiery, passionate relationship, but then at the same time, he sets her house on fire in the middle of the night, and she's escaping a
Mm-hmm.
house fire, and she's stuck in the fire, and it's a metaphor. But I just think it's cool. And I love the idea of like, did that happen? Did that not happen? But like, was that in her head? Like, obviously this is not where she should be. And I just
Right.
love that idea.
I love it. I love it. And that's like, you said you have an album, another one coming. Like you already started working on like the
Oh, it's
follow-up
all
to this
done.
album.
It's basically done.
Oh my gosh. Is it
I
going to be
can't,
another concept? Like the
yes,
like the one
it's
you have
called
now?
88. It's called 88, which is the year I'm born. And it's very different. It's a lot more of 80s synths and it's very fun and uplifting and energetic and still very cool, but it's just a different side that I haven't shown yet that I'm really
Mm-hmm.
excited about. And then from Elemental, it was incredible because it did exactly what it was supposed to do. I got a directing deal out of it.
Oh, you did. Wow.
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm going to be directing my first feature in the new year. So I'm so excited about it. Um,
Wow. That is huge.
so yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. So it's all good. It's very exciting. And then I'm already thinking like, do I do another visual album or do I do something different? So I'm trying to brainstorm the actual visual component right now, but yeah, we're getting started and it's basically done. I can't stop. So I don't know if this is now a third album we're on. Like we just keep turning them out. It's like just so fun.
That is cool. So with 88, is that a whole concept album itself? Like, is there like a storyline across the whole album,
There
or
is.
not as much? Oh, there is. Okay.
There is, but it's just very different.
Okay.
And it doesn't tie in with the elements this time.
Got you.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so awesome. To be that inspired and then to have something, the piece that came along with the album, to have the visual, and then for that to land you this directing. I mean, that's just so awesome how it all kind of has been unfolding.
Thank you. I love it. I love creating. I love telling stories, writing stories, and I feel like music and now screenwriting are just such a great way to get those stories out there and
Mhm.
impact people and help people. And yeah, it's my favorite thing ever. Like it doesn't feel like work for me at all. It's one of my favorite things to do. So even on my days off, like when I'm not filming, I'm usually doing Discord sessions with them in LA or in the studio or just creating something or screenwriting. It's always something. I'm just like doing something creative.
Creative. It must be
Yeah.
hard to juggle that though, to be on set. Like I think it's your manager, somebody email and just like, oh yeah, she's filming like 16-hour days, like for the next blah, 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 blah. It's like, how do you have time to write an album? And not only that, then direct these these videos. Like, it just seems like so much is happening.
I feel like what's crazy, especially with these GAC films or these Hallmark films, they're shot in
Mhm.
15 days.
Oh,
So we do an
wow.
entire movie in 15 days. This last one, it was like, I think it was like 260 something hours in the course of 2 weeks. And so
Oh, wow.
it's a lot, but then it's done. And so I'm able to like really dedicate my time and 100% focus on that. And I think what's really been helpful for me is, and what even inspired the screenwriting to begin with, was at the time I was just doing acting and kind of had put the singing over here and wasn't writing, but it was driving me crazy because I had this really weird pilot season where I kept getting super close and testing for projects and they weren't working out. And I didn't know what I was doing. And so I just started writing to keep myself sane. And then I just tricked my brain into thinking I was getting paid to do it. And I was like, I'm just going to write every day from 9 to 5, break for lunch in between. And that's what I did. And it just made everything better because it was like something else I was doing that was making me so happy. So it made my acting better. It made the auditions better. It was great because even after the audition was done, I was so excited to get home and continue writing and working on what I was creating. So it all fueled each other and made everything.
Right. And so
better.
instead of like reeling on like, oh, how did I do? Did I say those words? Like
So
reeling on maybe the
replaying.
audition, you're like, all right, that's done. I'm
So I'm
setting
so
back
excited to
to,
get home to this. And then also it gives you
yeah.
an understanding, like if it doesn't work out, like as a writer, you have a very specific idea in your head of what the character looks like or their vibe or whatever. And like, you're like, oh, okay. Like I'm not exactly what they're thinking, but it has nothing to do with me. And so it's like,
not, yeah, exactly.
it's not personal. And so it just like, it helped everything. And it was so fun. And like the first script that I wrote, I didn't think I was going to be, even though I tricked my brain into thinking I was getting paid, I didn't actually think I'd be selling it. I was like, hey, I want to just tell myself I can do this, write the end on a document, which is really hard and a huge accomplishment.
Probably such a big moment, like
such a huge moment, like 120 years later.
Yeah.
And I did that. And then I just kept doing it. And so I had like 12 scripts under my belt that I was just writing. And then to see them get made has been the most insane experience ever. So we shot 2 of them so far.
Wow.
One was for Hallmark. I add music into all of them as well. Have to.
Of course.
So one was for Hallmark. It was called Over the Moon in Love. And that was just super cool because I got to shoot that. I got to shoot actually both of them in Vancouver, which was great, but I got to put all my family and friends in as extras, which is also extra special.
Oh, that is really awesome.
And then we shot Harmony from the Heart, which was that first script that I wrote. We shot that in December with Jesse Metcalf, and I play a music therapist that sings to patients to bring back their memories. And that one was really special to me. And I dedicated it to my grandmother, she was a country singer. So
really? That's cool.
Yeah. So it's just been so fun and I can't stop. And so now I'm constantly writing all the next things.
Well, that's amazing. I love the album. I can't wait to hear 88 now. Now that and you have a remix, a couple of remixes just came out of some of the songs on Elemental as well, which are rad.
I felt like it was good to time it around Halloween, especially with Chasing Ghosts,
Yeah, that one makes sense for sure.
Yeah, even I went to a Halloween party Friday and people were suggesting songs and they all had the word ghost in it. And I'm like, okay, like, you gotta add some Chasing Ghosts on Halloween, and then Hunter as well.
Which is also kind of Halloween-y, right?
Yeah, it was spooky and cool. And again, a different style of music. It's a lot more electronic, but I actually really love electronic with female vocals. Is like some of my favorite songs to listen to. And so that was really fun too, to reinvent the songs and to come up with them. And yeah, again, that was another Discord session with Corey and Aaron where we just like, we go in and it's so fun. So yeah, I have those 2 remixes. And then I have a Christmas movie with Gladys Knight that's coming out November 26th.
And that'll be on the Hallmark channel as well?
It's on GAC.
Okay, GAC.
Yeah, GAC and Hulu. And working with her was also like I pinched myself. Like when I first saw the email, I was like, okay, there's an actress with the name Gladys Knight. I didn't realize it was the
Gladys Knight.
Gladys Knight. And I didn't know that I would be singing with her. And it was unbelievable. Like there were just moments where I just wanted to cry because it was just so cool. So I have
was that I just have a question on that. Was that nerve-wracking at all to sing with Gladys Knight? Were you like this is crazy?
The first day, Yeah, the first day that I met her, I actually had to just sing for her because my character's a Broadway singer. And
Mm.
so very first scene with her, I'm supposed to be singing Jingle Bells and she's supposed to
Oh,
watch me. And
wow.
I was like, oh my God, out of all the songs I have to sing for Gladys, like here I am singing Jingle Bells. I'm like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time, here we go. And then from there, like she's just so lovely and spunky and energetic and just kind. And it was amazing. And so end of November, it airs November 26th on American Thanksgiving. And I'm
Amazing.
gonna release 3 Christmas songs from that movie right before the holidays.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait. I'll definitely check that out. We love those movies, like the Lifetime, Hallmark Channel, like those, like, yeah, like that's like, yeah, those are my jam. I love
I
those.
love that.
But I appreciate
Awesome.
your time. Thank you so much, Jessica,
Thank
for doing this. This has
you.
been amazing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This is so fun. Thanks for chatting with me.
Of course. I have one more quick question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Believe in yourself and don't try to be anyone other than you. I think that's a big thing. Like, don't compare yourself. Just know that you are perfect the way you are. And I also think, yeah, don't give up on your dream. Even if it's hard, if you don't want to give it 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. That was the first piece of advice that I got in LA.
Oh, I
And it
love that. That's a good
stuck
one.
with me. And I was like, I'll give it 15 years. I don't care. Like I just think, but yeah, I think knowing that it's going to take time and it's not always going to be easy, but it's worth it. And I think if you believe in yourself, it's totally worth it. And then I think another thing that's really important is surrounding yourself with really good people that inspire you and support you and that lift you up, and also a team of people that know what they're doing. If you want to do music and collaborate, you find artists or DJs or producers that you vibe with and you feel comfortable being vulnerable with, because writing and music is very vulnerable. And then it's also being self-reliant, because I think there's a lot of videos out on YouTube that can teach you how to produce tracks and do music on GarageBand, even if you want. And that's also a huge thing as well.